Hallo, Zusman. Ist Joshua Hatton vom One Nation Under Whiskey Podcast. Hut habe ich der wunderbar Jessica Rabbit Guillermo Lomas zu Gast.
That was flawless.
Wasn't that great?
Beautiful.
Yeah. I prepared that intro to our One Nation Under Whiskey podcast because Jessica Rabbit Guillermo Lomas, you're meant to be in Germany right now. So
I am.
I wanted to deliver that intro to you and to our listeners just so that you could understand it and the whole entire nation of Germany could understand. So hopefully I've nailed it.
I think that was spot on. I see zero correspondence coming in to correct any of that. I am looking forward, though, that as the seasons of this podcast progress, I get to visit increasingly ridiculous countries based solely on the language spoken, that you will do an intro.
Oh, my gosh.
So watch out, guys, for the episode from Mongolia, inner Kazakhstan. I think you'll be fine once we get to all the South American countries. I think so when I come from Ecuador, obviously, for inevitably when I go and visit real Guillermo Lomas, you will flawlessly speak
that
Latin American.
Yeah, I think as Americans, we're a little more attuned to the Latin languages. Right. There's more Spanish speaking people here in the U.S. and, we kind of, Spanish and French is taught. And I think more people in high school and so on. And I took Spanish in high school. So I know how to tell you I have not done my homework. And I know how to tell you or ask if I could go to the toilet. So I think I could nail a Spanish intro.
They will only get you far in life. One of the other podcasts that I listen to, but don't worry, it's not a whiskey one. One of the presenters has just moved to Spain, and their current running joke is how little Spanish he learned before he went to live there.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they're selling merch that says, Tu gato es elegante, which obviously to the Spanish speakers who are furious with my pronunciation there is, your cat is elegant.
Oh, I like that. Tu gato es elegante.
I'll get you a t-shirt.
Yeah, very nice.
So there you go. That's my props for their lesson learning skills in amongst discussing crime. So crime podcast.
I don't know how you do it. You move to a country and you don't know the language. I mean, when you're off to Germany, because you go to Germany, you go to Japan. Do you have a translator with you? Do most people speak English, or how do you get by when you're working in foreign markets where you're not speaking that language?
I did French and German at school. I can get by. I can competently order 2 beers.
That's all.
What happens is inevitably everywhere I go, people recognize that you're not speaking their language natively, and they switch to English to prevent you becoming embarrassed. Except for some places where they just will allow you to kill yourself in their own language.
They just give you
Germans
more rope to hang yourself with.
And then they look at you and they say, German's fairly straightforward to navigate in, unless you're in weird bits of Germany. So where I should have been heading to, the Bavarian dialect is really difficult, and I cannot. That's too difficult for me. But they're quite proud of how difficult that is. So there's a hierarchy of German dialects, and internally in German, they all look down on the Bavarians. So they're it's a really difficult dialect to navigate. I know that you can say "bast show," which is like cool. Although I realize saying that I sound like a cringy dad. It's really cool. Or I sound like the mum in Mean Girls. I'm a cool mum. That's why. I'm one of the cool mums. Yeah, and I can kind of get by in German. That's okay. And what's really confusing to me is that obviously because I spend quite a lot of time in Sweden, which is a Germanic language, when I go to Germany, it's sort of like recognizing the words but feeling like your brain's glitching a bit.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the Swedes have stolen all of their language, or lots of their language from the Germans.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the angry hate mail from Swedes now, especially Chris.
Especially Chris.
So yeah, no, like Germany, I'm fairly safe. Japan was a whole other story. Like I have no kanji. Like I can say thank you and please, and I can point at a menu to order those 2 beers.
Point and then just 2 fingers.
While smiling, friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Friendly and approachable
course,
face.
Yeah.
No, I think Germany's okay. What I really struggle with in lots of places that I've learned bits of languages is feeling like I understand the context of the conversation and what's being said, and then it's called like being tongue-tied. Like I feel like I should be able to respond, but I don't have the language skills to respond back. So I like to trip up our lovely importers at Prineus by following their conversation and then interjecting in English.
I mean, you've just described my situation when just speaking English. So, I mean, that's where we are now. So,
yeah, and that's when pointing is really friendly, universal.
So here we are. We've got Niall and Libby from Glasgow Distillery. You didn't have to travel far to visit with them.
No, it's only about 4.5 miles from my house.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize. I mean, obviously you live in Glasgow, and nothing's too far from Glasgow within Glasgow, but I didn't realize it was only 4.5 miles from your flat. There you go.
Yeah, it's just on the other side of the water.
Okay, well,
give or take a bit of road.
When I first met Niall, he had to do a bit of traveling himself. We were down in Houston. We were at the Houston Scotch Whiskey Society. Oh, geez, what do they call it? I think it's the fall extravaganza, the fall event, the fall insert, celebratory word here. It's like a big whiskey fair for the Houston Scotch Whiskey Society. And it's a pretty cool society. They've got about 1,100 members all told.
Wow.
And
big.
Yeah, it's a big society, and they're pretty active. And I want to say there was maybe, 15-ish tables there. And I was somewhat opposite to Niall's table, and he was with Peter Curry, sharing a table with him, who's also been on the Padcast. And
I had to explain to the pair of them about Padcasts because they pulled a face at me, and I was like, I'm just going to wait until we've hit record.
I love that. And you nailed it too. It was my mistake, right? Which is what I was trying to explain earlier before. I struggle with the English language, and I just happened to say Padcast instead of podcast, and I get
I quite like it though. It's a pleasing, I don't know what the official word for it is. It's a pleasing made up English word. Podcast now has rung so much in my brain that I've just accepted it. It's in there. It's locked in. Podcast is a word, and it's only when I meet people and use it, and they look at me as if I'm the one glitching, and then I have to say, "Oh yeah, you right. You've never heard of a podcast." I think it just sounds like a nicer word than podcast. Yeah, almost like you've kind of. I mean, you have literally remix the word. I don't know. It's pleasing to my ears now.
Yeah.
We've obviously said it too many times.
Yeah. I think that, I don't know if it was the OED, right? The Oxford English Dictionary, or if it was the Merriam-Webster Dictionary who selected 6-7 as the word of the year. But I think they should have gone with Padcast.
I will ask them for the year of 2026 to consider Padcast. How about that?
Right. Let's lobby for it.
Yeah. It's a bit like, and this is a long story that the listeners can come and find me and I'll explain, but I now have to very carefully say the word Kilchoman Distillery because of an incident some time ago.
Oh, no.
Somebody called it Kickerman, and that just really tickled me on an epic level. So we internally all call it the Kickerman Distillery, and it's only when I'm back in the wider world that I have to remember to not make myself the fool who said Kickerman.
No, this is not good, Jess. You can't secretly do that, because it'll just come out your mouth. You'll say Kickerman.
No, now I pause as if I'm really struggling to articulate the word Kilchoman every time. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have a cask of Kilchoman, and I'm going to call it the Kickerman Club.
Will they allow you to print that on the label?
Undetermined. Haven't asked either Kickerman or the Wills family, but it's like new make. We've got many years of thinking about it before that's going to be a problem. Okay. So we're good for a bit.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the Kickerman Club. That's a good name.
So anyway, so here we are. We're down in Houston, and I was headed over to the Bruichladdich table. I'm going by memory here, right? But then I saw, then I passed by their table, and I was introduced to Niall, and I said, "Oh, Glasgow whiskies here in the U.S." I had no idea that it was in the U.S. at all. So I was really excited to taste some of their whiskeys. I tried some Bruichladdich, and Niall had mentioned a very special Springbank. I'm not gonna mention what it is here now, but he mentioned a Springbank that he got to taste while he was at that event, and I got to taste that too. But I did end up going back to his table and taste through the various Glasgow whiskeys that he brought in, and there was one in particular that he had under the table that was just remarkable. There was a peated one which was really nice, really unusual peat, but really pleasing, and then this other one which memory, but I think it was a sherry cask, and it was just gorgeous whiskey, just really nice. Their spirit is lovely. Just really, really well made. And I know you've had their whiskeys over the years. I'm really new to their stuff. So, I
think you're joining at a fun time, though, because they, like a lot of young distilleries, they're not the only ones who fall into this category. But as you build your distillery and you become more, not consistent, but I think acquainted with your style and what you're looking to do, I think you hit your stride, and they are definitely, their stuff is fantastic now. And I love that they're so inventive and innovative in their casks and what they're doing across their 3 styles of spirit, which we chat a bit about in the interview. Mm-hmm. We had Glasgow, I actually don't think it was Libby, I think it was Seb, who's her boss, came and did a tasting for my whiskey club. And we sort of thought he was going to bring 6, and it was mad. It turned into this. Seb was brilliant. He brought lots of different styles, lots of different things, not just your kind of obvious stuff. There was a golden beer cask, if my memory serves correctly, which was delicious. I think they just got loads of things to play with, and they seem like now, especially in the last few years, they're really having fun playing with what they can do and what they've got to show the world for what's squirreled away in those warehouses.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, let's move over to the interview. There's some questions that I've got for you afterwards.
Okay.
But let's move over to your conversation with Niall and Libby.
All right. Hello, dear Podcast listeners. You are joining me this morning from Glasgow Distillery, and I am joined today with 2 friends who are already looking at me thinking I've had some whiskey on the way in because I said padcost, not podcast. So I'll explain that to them shortly, but I'll tell you who I'm here with. How about we do that first? So I'm joined across the table, I'll go ladies first, by Libby Barmby, and then next to her is Niall Hall. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
A podcast is a podcast, but the superior version. One of us once said podcast, and it's kind of stuck. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So happy to be here.
Could be the one and only podcast you've ever been on, I assume, so far.
Yeah. So far.
I don't want to say I won't have you back. That's not how we're going to invite conversation. Yeah. That's rude. So your first podcast interview. That's fun. I thought we should start maybe by explaining a little bit who you are. Well, I'm not going to explain. You're going to explain. I'll introduce you. You can maybe tell us what you do here, and then we'll set off on this podcast journey discussing everything Glasgow Distillery. Sound good?
Fabulous.
Sound good.
All right, you're first up, Libby. Go for it.
Okay, so my name is Libby. I'm technically actually Elizabeth. Very posh.
I didn't know if you wanted Sunday name introductions.
I go by Libby purely because I'm Elizabeth with an S and everybody spells it wrong. So Libby's good. Libby's fine.
There's no S's to trip you up on that.
Yeah. So Libby. And I am the marketing executive at the Glasgow Distillery, which is a very posh title, which doesn't really have a lot of meaning, as I do very little marketing. A little bit of sales, lots of talking about whiskey, so you could kind of probably more likely call me like a brand ambassador kind of style. I tend to summarize my role by communications, which is mainly face-to-face tastings, events, here, there and everywhere. I think I figured it out last year. I spent about a month and a half on the road.
I'm amazed it's as little as that. I feel like there's maybe like 5 ambassadors in the industry who I'm convinced couldn't tell you what's inside their own flat.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a strong contender for always being in a suitcase somewhere else.
Yeah, crazy. But it's good fun to a point. Yeah, we'll say that. So talking about whiskey face to face, or talking to people about whiskey on social media, blog posts, that kind of jazz. So, yeah, always talking about whiskey.
That's good. And what about you? We'll come to you now.
So I'm Niall. So I've worked at the Glasgow Distillery for 7 or 8 months because time has gone past very, very quickly.
Where are we?
Yeah, where are we? It's definitely January.
Just about. Checks notes.
And so my role is looking after our export markets, but a lot like Libby. It's doing the teas and coffees, it's doing the tours, it's doing the events, it's doing any tastings that we've got, it's doing any communications, it's getting roped into doing stupid videos with Libby on Instagram. It's lots of different roles at the distillery. So today you're hearing from 50% of the sales and marketing team.
Excellent.
All 9 foot or 12 foot of them.
I think this is a superior 50%.
Hopefully.
9, 12 foot.
Yeah. Seb was here briefly. Shout out, Seb.
Yeah.
Hi, Seb. Thanks for the biscuits.
Thanks for the biscuits, Seb.
Do you know, we had a meeting at the start of this year with the 4 of us, like kind of planning out the year and, putting a strategy in place and being very organised. And I kind of came away from that meeting being a bit like, my brain has exploded because I'm very used to it kind of just being me and Seb flying by the seam of our pants and just kind of dealing with things as they come, and to actually be like planning and organising is really, really good position to be in.
Yeah.
Really nice to actually have a full team. So it's been quite, what's the word, daunting to like have a full team and actually be able to do what we want to do. Do you know? And
that's definitely, yeah. And to make it, but it's the magic of making it look like it's still spontaneous.
Yes.
So I'm one of these people who, I mean, obviously, like you guys, our job involves a lot of planning and making sure actually it's not a surprise what's happening next week. I really detest that. I know what's coming in October, and here we are. We're in January. Like, shh, don't tell me. It's a secret. I want it to be a surprise.
Surprises,
too.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, the whiskey, spoiler alert, that's not how the whiskey industry works.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
We're not very good at spontaneous or really surprises. I think most of the time we pretend that's what it looks like. Like, oh, we found a cask in a warehouse. No.
Didn't know it was there for 20 years. Yeah.
Man,
Don't tell a tax man that we didn't know that.
It's one of my favourite. So listeners to this podcast will have heard me mention before, I have a mental bingo card when I go to a distillery. Definitely we found this cask in the back of the warehouse. That's definitely a check on the bingo card, because I think HMRC have probably got a lot of questions for you if you've just found some casks in your warehouse. That's not very good. So that's you two, and you're both relatively new to the distillery, relatively with a small r, but actually the distillery itself is quite young. And I actually think I met Liam, who's one of the co-founders.
Mm-hmm.
I think I met him in Vegas in 2016. That's the first time I met him. There's a big whiskey show that happens there once a year called the Nth, which is a very glitzy, big whiskey festival. And I met Liam, I'm pretty sure that was the first time. And he may have had like very, I don't even know if he had liquid with him. I'll see if I can remember the end of that story. There's a lot of Vegasism. So maybe between the two of you could tell the lovely a bit more than 10 years. I guess you guys just celebrated last year with your 10th year of whiskey. The company exists a little bit longer, but could you maybe explain where I'm sat in Hillington, how this all started?
So officially the company started in 2012. However, we officially started making whiskey in 2015. So yeah, we celebrated 10 years last year with our unpeated distillate. So for those that don't know, we do 3 different styles of single malt underneath the one roof, just off the M8 in Hillington. So it's a little bit like having 3 distilleries all in the one place, which when you see the space, you wouldn't think.
You guys are so efficient to jam. And also, I think, just as we're getting into the whiskey, it's probably also worth mentioning it's not just whiskey you guys have here too. There's other spirits. There's gin, vodka, and rum.
Yeah.
I like you're just achieving too much.
We just can't keep still.
Hey.
Anyway.
Oh, that's very much appreciated.
So we started producing unpeated distillate in 2015. 2016 we started producing peated distillate, and then 2017 we started producing triple distilled. So that kind of creates our core range, our signature range of the original peated and triple distilled. This year we're going to get a peated 10-year-old. Next year we'll have a triple distilled 10-year-old. So it's quite a good couple of years for us. We're kind of at a good age of the new wave of distilleries. We are kind of, still young, but we're perhaps one of the older young ones,
It's crazy to me that you guys, when the announcement started last year about a 10th anniversary, it's crazy to me that you have liquid that's old. But that's because COVID has rotted my brain with an ability to have any concept of how time works.
I really like throwing in the fact that in 2015 I left school. Just on my exams.
Can't remember what I was doing in 2015.
That noise in the background is every single listener to this podcast being like, she's so young.
I think
I'd thrown it in there.
I think I was halfway through my sport degree, which is doing me well in the whiskey world. So,
Can we, as an industry, it's one of the questions I like to ask people eventually when we get into how we all ended up here doing this, because I think there's a good collection of us that could have. We could start. My degree is not relevant to this job club. I have 2 law degrees, which you can see are also serving me really well.
Yeah.
So you have a sports degree, excellent. Do you have a degree that you are filing away somewhere?
No, I do not. I did a year in sixth form in England when I did biology, maths, and whatever additional science or something it was called. Very intelligent, which I soon found out that I wasn't that intelligent. I loved all the subjects, I just was not very good at the exams, and went to college instead to do IT. Landed myself in a job at a distillery. I was the youngest in the distillery, and they were like, "Hey, can you do the social media?" And here I am.
Token young
you're young, yeah.
Yeah, here I am.
Hip. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, what's Facebook? Can you do it?
So yeah, I kind of fell into marketing really, but with a IT qualification, kind of. So not a degree, but yeah.
I think there's maybe not related to whiskey, but I think there is a thing here where we could all go back to school and tell young people it's okay if you go and do this and you don't end up like I really struggled when I finished at university not doing the thing I had gone to university for. Mm-hmm. And it's changing yourself from a mindset that doesn't need to define you. I wasn't expecting this podcast to turn into some sort of inspirational, uplifting
thing.
Here we are in the very glamorous Hillington estate, just off the M8.
Shaping lives.
Shaping lives.
Yeah.
Not keeping still.
Yeah.
We'll need to add that into our sayings. I think we have like a little thing that we try to use, but maybe don't use it well enough. What is it? sharing stories, inspiring stories, making history or something like that. Very classy.
like
and now
that.
we're shaping lives as well.
Shaping lives too.
Yeah.
Excellent. That is so, yeah. Okay, so if you...
Moving on.
We can definitely come back to that at the end when I really wrap this up in an inspirational way. Okay, so we have the first unpeated 10-year-old. We're coming to peated and triple distilled. You guys are very busy here. Was this always the plan from the out to have 3 styles plus your other spirits? It's like from the get-go, I feel like there has been a lot happening here.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the original Glasgow Distillery. So I think like to go back like 200 years at least, the original Glasgow Distillery, which we take our name from, produced those 3 styles. Okay. So the vision was always to produce these 3 different styles of distillate to kind of carry that sort of torch on from the original Glasgow Distillery. So they started making, nice and easy to remember because it's on every single bottle, they started making whiskey in 1770.
Good.
So they were one of 30 distilleries in the city. Some had licenses, a lot didn't. A lot were making whiskey in basements, some were making them in actual distilleries, and one of the first to get an actual license was the original Glasgow Distillery. So they were making whiskey up until 1902, and then they stopped making whiskey. Number of reasons why: lack of demand, something in America called Prohibition happened. I think that
good. That's definitely not in anybody's minds currently, given this week's news.
Yeah, so lots of different things basically torpedoed the Glasgow Distillery. And then in 2012, 3 friends decided that they were going to restart the Glasgow Distillery. Interestingly, of the 3 founders that we had, one of them was Irish and one of them was Welsh. So,
yeah,
interesting.
Nice little bit of Irish for the triple distilled.
Yeah,
you know, kind of our roots and the nice bit of history as well.
I was going to ask if that was a nod to Liam.
Yeah, I think to a point, probably.
Yeah. So, but Mike, who is the kind of the lead for us just now, is our token Welshman at the distillery. So
yeah, I tend to kind of start tastings, 2 friends, one was an Irishman, one was a Welshman.
Yeah,
it's not a joke. This is the real story.
Yeah, that's good. When I tell the story about the origins of single cask nation, I tell it as a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, nice.
And I like to, and it's only recently, and I'm saying this like, it's only recently within I'd say the last year, I've realised that Josh and Jason have never heard my version of how Single Cask Nation was founded. So I had to do them a live reenactment. And they've not fired me, so I'm just going to take that as approval.
Yes, great.
And I'll continue to tell my Hallmark version of how this all started. I guess when the distillery was founded, Clydeside, I don't think quite existed, but it's funny you saying 30 distilleries, because we famously, lots of the conversations about regions that had diminished, had lots of distilleries and diminished and then are building back up. I think Campbelltown is the region most people use for this. Do you think we're due a little Glasgow resurgence?
I think we're hopefully in one now. I think with us kind of existing, I
like the idea of you leading the charge.
With help from friends across the Clyde as well too. And I think in terms of resurgence, I think obviously with the fact that now we're almost going to have 2 10-year-old releases is really exciting, because age isn't necessarily a sign of quality when it comes to whiskey, but I think the fact that we now have distillate or now have liquid, which is that kind of a nice sort of round 2-digit 10-year-old matured release, then that's going to be really exciting for people to try. So and also interestingly, our original, or kind of the style that we first released, which was our 10-year-old, which was unpeated, I think that's very close to our original, but original is one that we sell the most of.
Yeah.
The peated is the one that is everybody's favourite. So the fact that we're going to have a 10-year-old peated this year,
people are going to go crazy for it.
Is really exciting.
Yeah. I think age statements are an interesting place to pause in the industry, because I think if you're a distillery who have been, in production for, some of our distilleries have been in production for hundreds of years, I think age statements, I view them differently. I think if Name a Big Distillery here put out a new 12-year-old, it's definitely worth a look, but I think when you are a young distillery like you guys are, a 12-year-old is a point for celebration. A 10-year-old, every kind of check of the distillery and the liquid getting older is an exciting development. So I view age statements in 2 ways. One is it's a recognition of a thing that's happened, but for the newer distilleries, it shows that they're getting to a stage where they can have a 10-year-old.
Totally.
Something which will have felt like a very I guess, in the future, far, far away concept in 2015 when the liquid was first starting to be distilled.
Totally.
For me, I think the whiskey getting older has really started to showcase the distillery character, which obviously, kind of sounds obvious, but so our triple distilled is really tropical, very light, very clean, obviously, but yeah, very kind of bananas, coconuts, that kind of thing. And what I've found with both the unpeated and the peated, so in the core range, the three triple distilled, the original and the peated, they're all very different. But what I've found from like a bourbon cask with the unpeated and the bourbon cask peated is that they're all kind of starting to taste like the triple distilled. Really tropical, really fruity, and it kind of showcases that what we're doing is right. We're doing something pretty good with the fact of the distillery character, despite the three recipes being very, very different. All the cut points are different and things like that. They are still very Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I really like what's coming out, and we just released a lightly peated 8-year-old bourbon cask matured that is, I feel like it's just the epitome of Glasgow Distillery character.
Somebody asked me to describe it in 3 words, and I said smoky vanilla ice cream, which is 4 words. So I was probably pissed.
There's a hyphen in there somewhere.
Yeah, there'll be a hyphen there.
Yeah.
I think to Libby's point though, the fact that like distilleries around Scotland have had like a 200-year head start on us.
Yeah.
And they're like, I think if you think about different brands and think about different distilleries, they're definitely, really well known for one thing. So, it's like a really sort of peated, like every single thing that they're releasing is a lovely sort of peat expression, really light and really kind of sort of smoked. I think for us, every single thing that we continue to do is more like, I come from a craft beer background, so I kind of compare it to where I've come from. And I think a lot of people will continue to come back to our stuff because they kind of go, oh, well, that release was really interesting. They've got the non-aged peated, which is really, really strong, but they've got 10-year-olds. I wonder what the difference will be between the two of them. Or they've got a peated liquid in a bourbon cask and it's 8 years. I wonder what that's going to taste like compared to the non-aged statement core range.
Yeah. The
10-year-old, I wonder what the 8-year-old's going to be like as well too. So it's really interesting. Hopefully it's enough to bring people back and kind of go, oh, I'm going to try that again because I loved that one. And they're doing something with peated liquid in a different cask and a different cask again.
Not to toot our own horn, but I do think we do really well with like the accessibility point, which is very much something that we kind of work towards, throughout everything, not only our liquid, but with what we do day to day is authenticity, accessibility and transparency. And I think when people come to my table at a festival, I'll say to them, what do you like? And the reason for that is because I'll have something for them on our table.
You definitely do.
And speaking to an independent bottler, we are very powerful in the way that we have these 3 different styles, almost like an independent bottler, we can go light and clean with our triple distilled, we can go rich and smoky, and pretty much everything in between. What I really, really like about our distillery and what I'm really passionate about is the fact that we can use, for example, a red wine cask with the triple distilled, or a red wine cask with the unpeated, or a red wine cask with the peated. And not only do you have 3 different whiskies there, but you've got 3 completely different flavour profiles of whiskey. So any distillery can use that red wine cask in, a number of different ways and in, a number of different years. I don't know, yeast trials and all these things, but under the one roof with the same, fermentation, same, malt and everything like that. We've got the same distillery making 3 completely different, products that is just, accessible for everybody.
I feel like you've definitely got an almost limitless variation
100%.
of options here, and that's kind of what you've just mentioned. And definitely when I've been like at Kendall or other festivals that I've known you guys are in the room, I've definitely always nudged people, not just a bit of a personal bias because I live in Glasgow, but like just because there is so much of everything to try. Mm-hmm. I wonder if maybe again because Glasgow's a relatively young distillery, you don't need to be spending lots of time setting up a history and a backstory as to how we got here. You guys have taken, I guess, a nod to the history with the naming of it. and then kind of just cracked on with it. I hope you don't find this offensive. I'm sure I'm not the first person to have said it. This distillery is not winning any awards for the most beautiful,
100%.
You know when we like to tell people to go to distilleries like Strathyler or Blairthorpe because they're very pretty, or there's a river nearby or something, the stags
The
on the hill.
Clydeside, absolutely stunning. Really nice distillery.
But that's also a very modern distillery. The time when they were building that, I was living nearby, so I used to cycle up and down past on the river going to and from my work, and I remember they tried for about a week to put the stills in. So if you've not seen Clydeside Distillery, it's down by the river and it gets quite windy, and they had it's a lovely glass kind of 3 sides to it, and what they basically did was sort of lift the stills up and pop them into the building, but they couldn't do it for about 3 days because it was too windy, and one day I had gone past and you could see them kind of trying and it looking very sugary. Ooh. And they were like, no, put it down tomorrow. So yes, also new and modern. I think I'm not trying to be mean to you guys, because what you're creating in here is fantastic, and it clearly doesn't matter that the building's not some 17th century big thick stone walls. Here you've got a real flexibility that you can shuffle up, or I suspect it's quite crowded inside now, but like you can add things in a slightly more free and easy way. I was at this distillery one of the days that you guys were getting I think it was a fermentation vessel and brought in, and a bit of the roof had to be rejigged, and I was stood watching it, and one of the lights had to be taken down because the crane couldn't get around it. And that's a nightmare for the people doing it. I was just in the viewing gallery watching it. That was lovely. But the idea that that's the option. If you need to take a bit of the roof off, you can kind of move around. So an industrial estate halfway between Glasgow and the airports, maybe not the most likely of destinations to build your distillery, but I think that's also part of being a modern distillery, that it gave you a flexibility. And I think it's kind of true to being a bit of a Glasgow thing. This is Glasgow to me is the gritty working side of Scotland. Yeah. And I think the idea of building your distillery in an industrial estate off the M8 sounds very Glasgow to me.
I think Libby summed it up perfectly on a tour not that long ago. And she said that we are operational, not decorational.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great.
We
get that on a postcard.
Absolutely.
So with the role that I do with the business, going abroad and kind of talking to people about the distillery, where we're set, talking about this kind of industrial element as well too. A lot of people have got the perception, like you said, waterfalls, unicorns, Munros, everything like Braveheart-esque scenes from Scotland, and there's a distillery in the middle of it.
Obviously, everybody here is... this is audio only, so no one can see, but everybody here is in a kilt. And there are several unicorns tied up with the Clydesdale horses outside the distillery, because that's how you all got to work
just next to the shipping container.
Yeah, lovely.
And the Burger King.
And a Burger King. So I say to people, I'm like, if you could shut your eyes and I'll describe where we are and you can get a picture in your head, we are...
And then you make them very sad.
But people go, by that time they will have tasted it and they go like, fucking hell, this is good.
There's about 3 car alarms going off because we're next to a massive Arnold Clark.
There is a Burger King, there's a BP. Like, we don't think it influences our whiskey, but maybe you can taste like some of the tobacco from the BP shop, and like there's a Greggs around the corner.
Hey, you've got recent additions to Hillington Estate. You guys have got a Baines.
Yeah,
I mean, you're really going places.
Drive-through Baines.
To anybody who's not in this very specific bit of Scotland, Baines is I think it's still family-run bakery chain, similar to a Greggs. And for some reason, I can't understand why you would find... Well, if you're able-bodied, you should be able to get out of your car and go and get your steak bake. But Baines have made it so that you don't have to. You can drive around and demand a steak bake, a lentil soup, and 2 yum-yums, if that's what you're...
21st century.
Yeah. Can even pay with the card now. God, how weird. Hillington's got such a mad mixture. But I think it's also worth pointing out that there is a lot of whiskey sat around here that's not yours.
Totally.
So Russell's is one of the largest bonded sites in Europe, supposedly. Mile or 2 back, and as you say, lots of whiskey sat here maturing. And I think, as an independent distillery, we don't have a lot of money up front, which is kind of why we set up in 2012 but didn't start making whiskey until 2015. We had this idea, but we didn't have anywhere or any staff to build this idea. Money's tight. There was a empty warehouse with all the paperwork already done. Let's squeeze some stills in there and start making some whiskey. And it is again, I'm going to say the words, our superpower, that we are in here, without the bells and the whistles and the and the horses and the running water.
No, you have water. I've seen it. Well, it's definitely water.
Yeah, tap water. We're all good. And we're making award-winning whiskey without all the glitz and the glam, and it's something that we really hold as our ethos, is that come and see us and our industrial distillery, and we'll prove to you that you don't need X, Y and Z to make award-winning whiskey. And it's kind of what we started to do with our tours, and I kind of wanted to avoid using the word tour because it's not a distillery tour. It's a distillery experience.
Oh, lovely.
And what it is come and spend the afternoon with us. Do you know? We're not looking for the people that are looking for something to do. We're looking for the people that want to come and see Glasgow Distillery, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's a very nice distinction between the two. Yeah. I say that as we're sat here in this gorgeous tasting room that's got a lovely display of all your wares at the top. But I think you're right. And you can see that in some of the distilleries that have been developed after you guys, that from day one they're already planning out, how in a health and safety compliant way can we allow the general public in here.
Health and safety? What's that?
What a bunch of spoil sports they are. And so there are newer distilleries that I've definitely been to where part of their planning and setup has always been from day one. We know that whiskey tourism is such an important and big thing in Scotland, not only just for people who are passing by and they want to tick off on their Scotland visit, a castle, a stag, a haggis whiskey, but for people who have found your whiskey, maybe at shows, maybe they've met Niall at a show somewhere glamorous and they want to come to Scotland and see where the liquid that they've enjoyed a little bit more. I think also people are always looking for the opportunity to talk to people behind the scenes too. Now, lots of distillery operators do not really want to be there as characters on the Whiskey Disneyland tour that people are on. But you guys, I guess, are allowing a little bit of a sneak behind the curtain if it's an experience here.
Yeah.
You do also have, apart from yourselves appearing at shows, you do have a very famous face who turns up in lots of places, is Shug.
Yep.
I did wonder whether or not we should get him on here, but then I thought maybe he'd be too embarrassed if I said lots of nice things to him.
We need a swear jar as well.
He loves it. He absolutely laps it up. He would not be embarrassed at all.
Next visit, we'll do the walk around with the mics and make people talk.
Yeah.
We'll have to stop him. We should explain, sorry.
Yeah.
Shug is your Cooper. I was about to be like, we'll have to stop him hammering things.
Yeah.
And the listeners are like, why would he be hammering things? He's the Cooper.
Yeah.
And I have been at shows where I've been pleased to see my friends that I like to be near in a show, and then also furious that Shug's there because he's usually demonstrating how to build a cask.
Yeah.
And on day 3 of a whiskey festival, I don't want to hear a man building a cask next to me.
We used to have him in the distillery because we didn't have the warehouse next door. And, he's so noisy whilst we're upstairs in the offices. And we said, right, when we get this warehouse, we'll move him out into the warehouse. And, of course, everything in there just echoes. So he's actually louder out there. But it's really cool, and you kind of just learn to tune it out as well as all the car alarms that are going off. But yeah, it's really a unique thing to have Shug here. We've heard all of his stories a million times, not only about coopering but about his 20 odd years in the Black Cabs in Glasgow. A man full of stories, full of talent, full of hard work. He's a grafter. He's a grafter. He really is.
I think that is if you're going to sum up the 16 people that work here, it's a team of grafters.
Yeah.
And I think it's led by Shug being lead grafter.
And also recently award winning, because I saw that he won an Icons
Cooper
of Whiskey.
Year.
Drop the mic.
Cooper of the Year.
He's insufferable.
All right, okay, well, maybe I'll change that. That's why he's not on here, because we wouldn't get a chance to talk.
Exactly.
It'd just be Shug.
You get him to talk about football and Rangers and so yeah. But in terms of kind of going back to the tour, being able to take people in here and sort of again talk them through our history and our core range, is that kind of Glasgow or distillery tour element. And then it's great, we're going to get you at this tasting room, put high vis on, let's walk around the distillery. We're distilling stuff just now, we're doing peated, can you smell it in the air? We'll get you to the spirit tank, We'll get you filling a cask. We'll get you into the Shug's office,
Yeah.
which is starting to get a little bit warmer now. It's pretty warm in December. He is
Yeah.
looked after. It's not like we just like cast him in there.
Just put him in a warehouse. We got a warehouse just to put him far, far away.
Yeah.
So, and he'll show you how to rise a cask like management, like some really interesting things that I don't think a lot of people get to see.
Yeah.
And people are like spellbound, which
All
is
the
incredible.
reviews are like, Shug's amazing.
Yeah, like-
oh my God, Shug was so cool.
And it's like, me and Libby were there as well.
Yeah,
But
like,
yeah.
come on, guys.
And those two guys in the high vis showed us on.
Chopped liver at the start, basically. So
I was very lucky. I got to go to Loch Lomond Distillery, who are another one that don't, I think, like you guys, they're looking at offering much more kind of limited
Yeah.
or experience-based bookings, not a turn up and see what's on situation. And I was with Alan, who is a bit of an industry legend too. Really nice guy, but honestly, when we went to the cooperage, I was like, Alan, you could just come get me like whenever you're locking up. That's right, because I was fascinated.
Yeah,
because
it's so cool.
Such a big part of what we do as independent bottlers. You know, we have no control over the production of the liquid. We're relying on the distillers we work with for that, but the bit that we can influence is obviously with the casks. So to me, like, it's really any opportunity to go, and I love being in a distillery, but any opportunity to go and see a cooper, and that the knowledge and the skill, it's such a specific set of skills they have for that job. And they are, you know, it's also an industry that seems to retain people for a long time, so it's not unusual to find coopers that have been doing the job for decades. When I was there were two guys who they were just coming up to their 50 years each in the industry, and they were flinging casks around like they were just empty paper bags. And it's so funny because that's one of my favorite bits. And they're like, do you want to try rolling a cask? And then everyone's like, yeah, sure, it looks so easy. And you get to the cask and you're like, ugh, that's really heavy. And these guys who are like, you know, absolutely wiry, muscly, older gentlemen just flinging casks around like there's nothing to it. And I was completely spellbound is the right word.
The right way for it. Absolutely.
And I just was like, this is the opportunity to ask them, to be that annoying person that has a million questions, because I don't know the next time I'm going to have unfettered access to a cooper to ask them, what type of cask do you like best? What's this? What's that? And it was amazing to see such pride in their work. The coopers showing us what their favourite casks were, and one of the guys told us about Andy. He said where his favourite casks was this parcel that was coming from Sweden. They were Swedish oak. And he'd hidden them at the back, and then he'd stacked loads of pallets of other casks in front of them to stop anybody being able to use them without him knowing about it. They were like his babies hidden at the back. I've got a very funny picture of him kind of like pointing at them. Yes, that's a great addition that you guys can bring here to have, you know, a conversation with Shug, but also to be able to see up close how a functioning distillery is working, not in the kind of glamorous fairy tale version. I think it's nice to have the option for both in the industry, and there's definitely a place for both.
Yeah.
But I think what you said is right, that this is for people who want to see how Glasgow whiskey is made. Come and see this, rather than being like, oh, we've got a gap between 2 and 5. We could just go to a distillery, do a £10 tour.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Whiskey tourism wouldn't be what it is without those tours, you know?
Absolutely. It's good that you guys, I think, are in care of the community. You're looking after people that want to know more about your whiskey.
Looking after the geeks.
Well, yeah. And also, but I think maybe bringing in people who have more than a kind of passing interest in whiskey, and are maybe wouldn't label themselves as geeks, but would like to know a little bit more. I also think it's nice to add a context to what you're drinking, you know?
Yeah.
I always say that we tell people when we're picking casks, we're not really picking casks in a warehouse, because it's too romantic. It's a giddy environment to be in, to be like looking around at what's around you and the smell, and it's cold. It's not the best environment to try whiskey in, but it's nice to be in a warehouse and drink whiskey.
Totally, yeah.
But the unglamorous bit is that currently my kitchen is full of a load of open cask samples that I'm working my way through to pick for the rest of the year.
Well, interestingly, for our Christmas night out last year, Mike decided that they were going to do 53 or 54 single cask samples the day after the Christmas night out. So Seb, I think, is just about recovered.
Poor Seb.
Poor Seb.
That's a stressful environment, but maybe it's stress testing the whiskey. You know, when you're really at your absolute, I can't think of wanting to try whiskey. If something really jumps out at you and is amazing, then it really is going to be, on a day when you're excited to try whiskey, it's going to be even more hyped up from that.
Yeah.
I think to your point around about people coming for the experience as well, to what living in Glasgow for the last 2.5-3 years there's a serious amount of city pride.
Yeah.
And like country pride. Like, people love Scotland, and people who aren't from Scotland have always got incredible stories whenever you go to different markets or go to festivals. And I think being able to show them something that is from the city, in the heart of the city, that is making like really high quality stuff, carrying like the city's name on it, is like really powerful for people as well too. Again, like going to the States and people are like, I was in a taxi in Houston and the lady was like, where are you from? And I was like, I'm not going to try and do an American accent.
I thought you were going to launch fully into a Texan accent.
Where are you from? Where's your accent from? And,
lovely.
And
we've just lost half of our podcast listeners.
And she was like, I was like, Aberdeen. She's like, my son's convinced that he's Scottish. And I was like, okay, well, have you done any sort of links? She was like, fuck no. I was like, right, so he might not be Scottish, but does he feel like he's Scottish? And she was like, yeah, he's like, interacts with like Scottish media and like movies and film. And I was like, he can be Scottish if he wants, like that's fine. So I think we've got something like really magic in the city and also in the country in terms of like people really wanting to experience the place. And I love when people say, I've been to Scotland, and they just say they've been to Edinburgh. It's like, that's fine, but like come west, like
every time
go north, go to Dundee, go to Aberdeen, go to Inverness, like go to all these amazing places, because Edinburgh's great, but Glasgow's really good too, and so is Dundee, and so is Perth and Inverness and Kinross and all these amazing places. So so being able to carry like the city name and being able to show people that this is going on in their city is also like a privilege.
Maybe I need to workshop this a little better, but I always describe Glasgow as aggressively welcoming. Yeah. And you can either meet your best friend at a bar and you've met a bunch of guys that are all shugs that drink in that bar, or you meet your worst enemy and you leave immediately. Yeah. And that sounds kind of, I guess, weird, but in context, once you've been in Glasgow, when I first moved here, I was like, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I wanted. I never meant to stay in Glasgow, and I sort of forgot to leave, and I've been here 15 years. And that's a frightening number to say out loud, but I love this city, and I at one time thought I was going to live in Edinburgh, and I've definitely made the right choice being here.
Well done.
I tell people who come to Scotland, go to Edinburgh and look at it. And I'm now alienating all of our East Coast listeners. But come and see Glasgow, because it's where real people are doing real things and getting on with life. And we have lots of history and nice things to look at.
And the food scene and the bar scene is
so good,
incredible across here.
I've never felt more at home in Glasgow. Do you know, like... I talk very passionately about Glasgow Distillery with my Yorkshire accent, but I was actually born in Scotland, so I think I'm Scottish. I am Scottish, you know.
If you feel it in your heart, it
depends whoever's winning the football, really, whether I feel English or Scottish. It's normally England, unfortunately. But
quick, save this, Libby.
But anyway, right, moving on.
Is anybody listening yet? Is anybody there?
So I was going to bring up the Yorkshire thing, because I started a joke a long time ago with Josh and Jason, because I'm also from Yorkshire, that half the industry are Yorkshire people. And I like to introduce them outwardly, immediately. Like, I'll say your name and they'll be like, Yorkshire. Yeah. And it's...
Funnily enough, I do the exact same thing with you. Oh, it's Jess. Yes, she's from Yorkshire.
And I was never really proud of being from Yorkshire, sorry mum, until I left home and then decided that people from the People's Republic of Yorkshire. Yeah. When I left home, I went to Aberdeen, so it was an important distinguishing factor that I wasn't English. I was from the People's Republic of Yorkshire, and that was acceptable, because I think there's a lot of similarities, a lot of jokes about being extremely tight-fisted between Yorkshire and Scotland, especially Aberdonians, and that's a nice way to kind of ease people in. But sometimes when I go abroad, people just assume Yorkshire is part of Scotland, and sometimes I don't correct them. I'm like, I just don't look at a map too closely. We're very, as a county, we're massive. We have the same population as Scotland, so I feel like we could be
basically the same thing.
We've upset people from Houston. Now we've upset people from Lancashire, because I've declared that the worst of the counties. They're just the wrong side of the Pennines. Yeah. But I think Libby and I are now in the right place, because we're in the heart of Scotch production, and Glasgow, I think, is a natural home for people from Yorkshire that have fled the sea. Where are you from in Aberdeen?
A place called Westhill, so not Aberdeen in the Shire. So
not Chiftaland. It's on the way there.
Yeah. I think like it's probably there's still a lot of Doric spoken in the family, so
interesting.
I love Doric, but it sounds very stupid in my Yorkshire accent. So I will, for her really alienating the last 3 people listening to this,
yeah.
I'll not offend you with my Doric accent.
But if you do want to learn some Doric, Foos your doos translates as basically how are your pigeons or how are your doves.
Foos your doos.
And it's a way of saying how are you.
And you have to
There
reply.
we go.
You have response is pecking, because you obviously want your doos or pigeons to be eating.
Oh, there we go.
So there you go.
I've learned something.
It's a Glaswegian version
Shaping
of
lives.
this. Shaping lives.
And language.
Who'd have thought come to Glasgow to learn some language skills?
Yeah.
That's famously.
Crazy.
Is there a Glaswegian greeting you start your tastings off with to make people feel at home?
We normally just let Shug do the...
Yeah, I feel like Shug's so Glaswegian that people just don't really understand what he's saying, so they just kind of take that as the Glaswegian welcome, maybe? Me and Shug really struggle sometimes to understand each other. Most of the time we're fine, but I have to ask him quite often, what did you say? What was that?
But again, people are just captivated by him for his coopering, but also like his history of the city of Glasgow and the history of the distillery as well
I don't
too.
think you could get more Glasgow than Shug.
Yeah, correct. So.
I used to have in a previous life a job where I was a manager of a shop and a cafe, and I used to have a guy who was from Fraserburgh, and although he'd lived in Glasgow for 15 years, was still full of the Doric, Federbroch, and I had a girl who was from Kirkintilloch, but is one of the most Glaswegian women I've ever met, and putting them on shift was like a comedy act because neither one of them understood each other, and they're from the same country.
Yeah.
So that was I feel like that's a kind of, Glasgow's an enriched melting pot of people,
Totally.
not just internationally but also within the same country.
Yeah.
We've all ended up here.
Incredible.
So I think at the end of this we definitely need to be getting some sort of sponsorship from, at the very least, Glasgow Tourist Board, but Visit Scotland, I think, have done
Baines
a great
as
job.
well too.
Baines, you could sponsor me in steak bakes, that's fine, or yum yums.
Yeah.
Because we've got lots of healthy cultural food to match with our. Maybe we could try that. We need to go to Baines. I should have gone to Baines on the way here and got a bunch of
donuts.
goods to match with the whiskies.
We have spoke about different pairing things, and it just so happens we speak about different spirits that we make. So we make rum as well too. So we've got a spiced rum which we distill and spice ourselves in Glasgow. Obviously we don't have the environment for growing sugarcane, so it's coming from Madeira.
This room's warm. You could grow it in here.
It could be grown in here. Yeah, we've probably got a loft somewhere.
Yeah.
Although I think there's more stuff being grown in lofts in Glasgow that isn't sugarcane. We started chatting to somebody at one of these rum festivals, and he makes hot sauce in Glasgow. So there's a guy, Milos, called the Condiment Man, who works out of the Barras. So if you're ever visiting Glasgow, Barras should be like top of your list to go visit, as like a place to go experience like the markets and go and see like all these amazing like independent traders who are based out of there. Yeah. And going to the gig at the Barrowlands is like probably top of the list as well too.
100%.
But he took some of our 1770 peated and made a hot sauce with it. So
it's official.
Worth checking that out. And it is like, again, being in the States, people were like, wow, like that's got like some beautiful like barbecue sauce sort of notes. Like, and eventually when I met Josh at the Houston Whiskey Society, somebody said barbecue sauce, and then everybody kept coming over and saying, can I get the barbecue sauce dram? I'm like, it doesn't have barbecue sauce in it, it just tastes like it. But
that sounds good though.
It's incredible. And like the cash strength one is just like umami kind of smoked mushrooms and beef and like Iberico ham and like incredible.
So everything basically is influenced by Burger King across the road.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a real scoop that we've got on this podcast, because I like to, when I go to places and I, especially if you're talking to whiskey makers, the creative kind of minds that they have and the flavors and stuff they're coming up with, nobody yet has said Burger King to me. So it's unique.
Yeah. It's gonna be it's either going to be that or the tires from Arnold Clark.
Yeah, like you stand in the car park and you genuinely can smell like the beef from Burger King. Like it's a real thing.
Maybe you should also do some sort of like biltong beef jerky.
We could do that.
I make biltong using whiskey.
Okay.
It like smoky whiskey in the marinade, because you have to be quite careful about what kind of smoke, and I think Glasgow's one would work. Like Lafroig goes really weird and fishy, it's a bit gross, but Lagavulin is the perfect.
Okay.
It's got that rich earthiness, and then you hang it. And the advantage of that is it makes my flat smell like a distillery. That's great.
Very cool.
It's not the whiskey samples for once. It's the biltong curing in my kitchen. So yeah, you could maybe get a side hustle with Burger King, some sort of meat jerky production. God, that's another thing you guys could add in here. There's already so much going on, so many spirit types, hot sauce.
Absolutely.
I've got Cooper on the go. I think this might be the busiest distillery actually in Scotland.
We'll try anything.
I don't want to do any more, Jess. Please, no.
Okay, sorry, retract that, Joshua. We don't. They don't want more creative input from nosy independent bottlers. Okay, so I'm heading towards getting us out here on my famous Fast Five, but I think we've talked a lot about the flavours of Glasgow. If you had to explain it to somebody who's never had a Glasgow whiskey, maybe we're starting with your original, what are you telling them to look for? What are they going to be getting from those flavours?
I think the original is probably our flagship single malt. So I think across the range, so like Libby said, we hope that we've got something for everybody. So with the triple distilled, again, like sort of smooth, really vibrant sort of liquid. With the peated, it's more kind of rich and smoky element. Original, we say, is like fresh and fruity, and I think that like really sort of sums up like our production, our DNA as a distillery as well too, and a lot of the casks that we're using as well too. So real sort of bourbon influence to start with, and then finished in some fantastic virgin oak casks that we get from Kelvinside Cooperage in the States. So
because I think your use of virgin oak has been part of the DNA from the beginning, and is also, I think, lots of distilleries are touching on using virgin oak, but I don't know. I can't think of anybody. That's a lie. I can think of a couple, but who are using it as predominantly, as especially as part of your base makeup of what you are putting out there. So was that a deliberate? I just want to kind of pause the conversation because I know what I want to ask next, but the virgin oak made me think of it. Was that a deliberate choice in the beginning? Because you can use it, I guess it works really well with young liquid. So I guess in the early days, maybe that gave you a bit of a boost in terms of developing flavour quickly.
So a lot of the new wave distilleries are using the STR red wine casks for like flavour and colour very quickly. We're kind of using virgin oak in that place. So I suppose, there was like the choice of, it kind of, beefing up our young whiskey, but also the nice link between us and Kelvin Cooperage. So Kelvin Cooperage is a Glaswegian company that was set up in Glasgow in the 60s, took their cooperage to Kentucky in the 90s. When it came to, Glasgow Distillery looking for virgin oak, it made absolute sense that we were using a Glaswegian company. So the idea is that Glaswegian hands are making the casks in Kentucky, and then Glaswegian hands are filling the casks back here in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's nice. So do you think going forwards you're going to continue, the virgin oak is here to stay as part of the setup?
For sure. Yeah. So our peated core range goes into virgin oak for the majority of its life. And I think, even now, as we're filling casks, as we're distilling the peated, majority of the liquid is going into virgin oak.
And same for our triple, there's an element of the kind of virgin oak casks that we're using in our triple distilled as well too.
Across all three, So, it's like, probably the DNA of
absolutely.
The distillery.
Yeah.
I think as well, for anybody that has seen the kind of whiskies you're putting out, Glasgow has covered pretty much every cask type I can think of, which is really fun for me as a whiskey drinker.
Yeah.
Is there anything you haven't seen and you would like to see Glasgow liquid going into, whether it's either of the three types of spirit?
I would love, and I don't know if it's possible, for a Buckfast cask.
I knew you were going to say it.
You've chosen the most problematic option.
Yeah. I think what is really interesting about us as well is we're sitting on around about 7,000 different casks. Now, most of those will go into our core range. However, we do have a warehouse next door to our distillery where we're finishing things. And I could say a cask, the likelihood is it probably exists already. I just know that we don't have a Buckfast cask, and that's why I would like one of those.
Is Buckfast even aged in casks?
Who knows?
I doubt it.
Don't think so.
So for anybody listening to this who doesn't know what we're talking about, Buckfast has a fearsome reputation.
Notoriety.
Okay.
I think.
Infamous, maybe.
Yeah.
It is a tonic wine which is produced by the monks of Buckfast Abbey down in Devon. It's not a Scottish thing. People think it is Scottish. And it's got a little bit of a how to phrase this, It's really famous in Glasgow in a slightly problematic way. There's a lot of violence associated with it, but this tonic wine is, it's very sweet. It's a fortified spirit, but the problem that makes Buckfast especially problematic, I should say, is that it's got a lot of caffeine in it.
It's equivalent to like 8 cans of Coke
so I
in a
was
bottle.
once told by a chemist that if you take a glass and you half fill it with Buckfast and then you top it up with Red Bull, you're actually diluting the caffeine content. It is. So it's known as Wreck the Hoose juice because it's very sugary, very sweet, very alcoholic, and it's loaded with caffeine. So you can imagine that's a real...
but it is a fortified wine.
You can be sophisticated.
We
with
have
it if
used
you wish.
fortified wines before in some maturation.
Just not one with caffeine.
Just not one with caffeine.
Despite
that would be my shout.
Despite us being Glaswegian, we have a little bit of class.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Maybe that's
just
why you've not got
bit.
to it.
So, no Buckfast, please.
Okay. So that's Buckfast on this side of the table. And what about you, Libby? What cask would you like?
I don't know. I mean, we've already used the cask at the moment, our Constantia, the South African wine. We have used our unpeated with it. I think it would go really, really well with our triple distilled. So that's something that I would like to look at. But yeah, apart from that, some of the things that we've used I've never even heard of. So
that's fun. That's what I love about this and what you guys are doing. It's complete innovation. Like there's real freedom here to try something, and maybe it doesn't work with a triple distill, but maybe it'll work with a peated or your original spirit. Like that's what here. It's kind of like a Matrix style, endless options for you to play with.
Because we are so young, I think that's, and again, like talking about the people who've got 200 years experience in front of us or a 200-year head start. Because we are so young, there's not necessarily like restrictions on what we want to be known for.
Yeah.
So being able to use lots of different things. When we use it across the brands, we've got the spice rum that we make, Banditi. We've taken one of our old peated casks and matured spiced rum in it. And it is like incredible. It is so, so, so good.
I kind of summarise it by saying we are whiskey geeks making whiskey for whiskey geeks. You know, we're experimenting as much as we can because that's what we want to drink, very much like yourself.
Yeah, I feel like you could be the distillery version of Single Cask Nation. That's the... If one day when we all win the lottery collectively between the three of us and we build a distillery, we could do... I hope you could come and teach us things, because I like the idea of, this endless... something new. I think definitely the more people get into being whiskey geeks is an element where we become very like magpies. There's always a shiny new thing to catch your eye and play with, and definitely living in a single cask world that there's, I can bottle something next month and we can bottle the cask that was, filled on the same day and live next to it in the same warehouse space, and it's not the same liquid. And that's part of the magic of whiskey for me, that it's always changing. Now, if you're a whiskey maker and a blender, that's an absolute frigging nightmare, because you're trying to create a consistent product. And I have a privilege of being in a place where I'm not looking for consistency. I'm looking for a good story and good liquid. And I leave the complicated stuff for people that need to make it the same. So that 10-year-old has to be the same everywhere, all around the world where you go. That's for people with much more clever brains than me. What
I like about the new wave of distilleries is that we kind of thrive on those like tweaks, So original will always be original, but from each batch, it's going to change slightly because we don't have these massive stocks that other people do. We're a small independent distillery, and as I say, the DNA will always be there. You'll know it's the original, but over time, our whiskey is growing and it will grow with us. I think it's a really awesome thing to have that as it's not always going to be the same. It is always going to grow.
Yeah.
On our limited editions as well, I think about people who aren't necessarily enthusiasts in whiskey or geeks, but they might have had tequila or mezcal before. Or they might have had wine when they've visited South Africa or New Zealand or Australia or France or port, or they've had bourbons before, and being able to have that and kind of go, I don't drink whiskey, but I love mezcal. It's like, well, great. Well,
try this.
We might have something for you. And it's obviously something, again, independent distilleries or small distilleries like us from that new wave category are doing that. So like I'd never heard of Sauterne before, but lots of people had.
That's one of my favourite casks.
We did a 10-year-old last year in collaboration with Royal Mile Whiskies, and it was like drinking marmalade. Like, it was so good. So good. So stuff like that, where people have gone, oh, well, I've had Sauterne wine Sauterne wine before. I'll try the whiskey.
Yeah.
So
it could also be a way of people finding you, because if you drink a style of whiskey and it's in your like quite a strange or unusual cask, quite often you then kind of want to go out, you're like, okay, well, who else is using this cask?
Totally.
And they're inevitably going to end up on your doorstep because you guys have used everything. So that's a nice way for people to find you too. And maybe it works back the other way. You know, people will try something unusual with you guys and then be like, oh, Kilhoman have done it. Or, you know, there's a way of kind of discovering new whiskies.
I've noticed that Lindors have bought some Constantia casks, and from when we were kind of looking at it, we didn't find any other distilleries that have used the Constantia wine casks. I think we did come across an independent bottler that had put, I can't remember who it was, but there was a whiskey out there that had been put in a Constantia wine cask, but I've now seen more people actively saying that they've bought Constantia wine casks. So, you know, as soon as that comes out, I'm going to be straight on it to see what it's like, you know. So not only for other people coming into us, but for me as a whiskey geek going out to other people as well. Do you know, I kind of kick myself a little bit sometimes doing barrel tops just before Christmas there. I ended up selling 2 bottles of Living Souls. They'd just released a Bowmore 7-year-old, I think it was, bourbon cask. Delicious. And I'm stood there pouring my whiskies and I'm like, that whiskey, by the way, banging. And I ended up selling 2 bottles.
So you can invoice us whenever you want if you're listening. Living Souls.
That's what I quite like about the whiskey industry, though, that in theory there should be an element of competitiveness between all of us, but I think there really isn't, and that's a perfect example of it. Like, you are honestly selling Glasgow, you know, you're not just saying drink this, but the kind of whispering, but the good stuff's over there. You know, you are saying, oh, and I also really like that, and I think whiskey drinkers really appreciate that 100%. Kind of honesty and recommendations. I think the whiskey world is full of recommendations. You have done a great job of bringing me into, I was trying to think how we were going to get to these. Instead of just doing a slam the brakes, go into it. Yeah. What you've just said is a perfect tie-in. Also, I'm going to go for our quickfire 5. Yeah. So I'll let you decide which one. I'm going to ask the question and you can see who wants to answer it first. Okay. Yeah. I am doing, Josh and Jason are allowing me to creep out into the whiskey world and ask people questions. So I've started asking people these 5 questions at the end. Jason always has a very concise, let's get out of here on this question. I've decided to take a liberty and make that 5 questions. So these are quick fire. Don't think too hard about them. Okay. Number 1, if you were a whiskey, what would you be?
I honestly would love to put myself in the category of R-peated. Okay. But I did try a whiskey from New Zealand called Thompson whiskey, and they use Manuka as part of their sort of process, and probably one of those whiskies. Okay.
I have always described myself as being quite average, not in a bad way. I don't really like really big flavors. I don't really like really big like cloves. I'm very kind of classic, and for me, our original is very classic. It's very does the job, ticks a box, award-winning, but average. Do you know?
Oh, you're not average. But
I know I'm not average, but I don't know, just that way of like classic, original, the OG, that kind of,
I like that. I'll take it. Okay, that's question 1 done.
We're very on brand there. Well done, us.
Yeah. I was going to say, you don't have to be on brand, but I didn't want to make it load it one way or the other. If that's what you believe, then who am I to tell you? Number 2, what is your desert island dram? So we're in an limitless ultimate. You can have no money as an object, but you're only taking 1 dram with you for that desert island.
I have answered this before, and I gave the answer of Kalila, but since then I've kind of come off Pete. So I'll let you go first, Niall, whilst I have a quick thing.
Highland Park 18.
Oh, good. That's a strong answer.
It's just like so good.
Okay, I know. Ardnamurchan did a special bottle with the Good Spirits Company, a shop in Glasgow, Golden Promise, Oloroso. The past year or so, I've very much been into my sherry bombs, and that whiskey, I wish I'd have bought 3 cases of it, because I love it. There you go.
Okay. And also extra points for plugging a local retailer.
Yeah.
Number 3, what do you feel is the most underrated region or distillery in the Scotch world?
Lowlands.
Obviously.
Lowlands region.
Yeah. There's so many of like the newbies are coming from the Lowlands. Us, Lindors, Kingsbarns, Lockleigh.
I really struggle with the concept that the whole of the Kingdom of Fife is Lowlands, because it's north of where I live. But yes,
yeah,
you're
I see
right.
What you mean. But yeah, I think we're really up and coming as a region. We were kind of talking about it earlier with, like Glasgow being like, could Glasgow be up and coming? Mm-hmm. I think Lowland as a whole is really, in the next kind of 5 to 10 years, I think we're really going to boom.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think of a distillery. I think the region, absolutely, in terms of like the amazing sort of stuff that's coming out of here as like that region, like you said. I think the map is quite old school, and I think we are trying to bust that myth that it has to be like that style from that region, otherwise it's not from that region.
But you get lots of peated Speyside. So traditionally, Speyside would have had an element of some sort of smoke in it. Yeah. But I think we've kind of boxed ourselves in really tightly that Speyside equals this, and
totally.
There's no able to kind of flex with it. So okay,
I'll say Lowlands.
Cool.
Number 4, if you were starting your whiskey journey today in 2026, do you think you would do it differently? Where would you start? Do you have what would your ideal, now that you have both got the foresight and ability to say you've tried lots of whiskies, if I was telling you that I've never drank whiskey before, where would you point me in the direction of?
That's such a good question.
I wouldn't change how I kind of came into whiskey, I don't think. I started very young, as in whiskey that wasn't even whiskey yet, which kind of made me really appreciate younger whiskey and maybe kind of ignore some of the big boys, weirdly. Like there's a lot of kind of core products from the big boys that I've just never tried, because in front of me, if you've got, I don't know, 18-year-old Highland Park, I'd probably go for the 5-year-old Lockleigh because of the interest behind it.
Yeah.
I'm, curious. But I think from a newbie going in, very on brand, triple distilled. The Irish, the Irish whiskey is really accessible, for newbies. I think that.
Do you think it's because there's a concept of like big aggressive flavours putting people off? So I mean, I've been running tastings for an extremely long time. I've been doing tastings in the Bonaccord for 13 years, but I've been running whiskey tastings for like 15 years. And I think there is a kind of misaligned perception that really big flavours, and that includes really big peaty whiskies, are very off-putting to everybody, but especially as a category, women. And I can tell you, having done tastings, that not just whiskey, where quite often it would be the women who really love the peated and the men are the ones going, Also in the beer world, I've done a lot of beer work. People are like, oh, these imperial strong stouts, they're going to be too much for the little ladies. And nearly always, it was the women at the end of the tasting be like, what one was that? Can I get that in the shop? Do you have that? So I don't think big flavours necessarily need to be intimidating. No. But I do think something gentler, maybe like a triple distilled or a slightly more straight down the line cask might not scare people off, if that makes sense.
Tastings are such a good example as well, because I feel like if you're told what you're drinking and you understand what you're drinking, it's a lot easier to access. Yeah.
I had my earliest memory of having a whiskey, I was 14 at a house party. And I had a Lefroy 10, and I said I was never going to drink whiskey ever again.
I think that's reasonable at 14.
So I think for me, I probably wouldn't have done that, but in terms of where I would start again, I think, so something really sort of light. I think if you are getting into whiskey for the first time, you might have come from other categories, so other spirit categories. It might be gin, it might be tequila, it might be mezcal, it might be from wine. Again, something really triple distilled and that kind of sort of really refined, sort of soft, smooth flavour is probably going to be something that I think would be a fantastic place to start.
Okay, that's good. That was question 4. And the final one. Now, this is a little bit difficult because when I started writing these, I wrote them for Matthew in good spirits. And so the final question is really shop related, but it also probably may also have something in your whiskey journey. So the 5th question is, what's your most missed dram? So that could be something you had somewhere along your journey that now is not an option. So I talked with Justine in my last recording. We talked about like an old Tamdu that I have found in pubs in Glasgow that was delicious, and then we drank it all and it doesn't exist anymore. So maybe is there something you've had along the way that you probably can't get back but would love to be able to?
When I was in Houston last year, I had a 30-year-old Springbank, which had been distilled and bottled. Sorry, it had been distilled in the 1960s, and then it was bottled in the 1990s, and it was like drinking leather in the best way. It was like, it was so funky to the point at which, like, I love rum, so like my favorite rum's Hamden 8-year-old, and
nice.
Like that is just super duper funky, and like to have a whiskey that tasted like that, that was like akin to like that style of rum. I was like, I didn't know whiskey could taste like this.
What I love is that you've just described drinking leather in the best possible way, and 2/3 of the people listening to this have all gone, yeah, we'd like that, that's great. If I said that to my non-drinking mother, it was like drinking leather, she'd look at me and be like, you need to stop drinking.
I think like tasting notes in whiskey are so funny, because before I was like tobacco, I was like, well, that doesn't have great connotations, but now it's like leather, old rope, engine oil, like, and I'm like, Band-Aids. That is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's like going to be a bit of like a left hook, basically.
Anything that tastes like TCP, sign me up. That's
that's what I'm after.
Funny.
Yeah, so that would be mine.
And you?
Again, very on brand. We did a Manzanilla cherry cask.
Oh, that was good.
Technically unpeated, but it had been in an ex-peated cask, so there was a wisp of smoke, which was definitely more than a wisp. I wish we had it on tap.
But honourable mention for our Ruby Port that we done last year, which was 6 years old. So like going from one extreme to the next, we done a Ruby Port cask. Started in bourbon, finished in Ruby Port casks. It was like strawberry jam.
We just do sweet really
like
well. I think that's
so good.
As a distillery, is sweet.
Yeah.
Like, even though the peat, sweet peat, sweet triple distilled, anything sweet is really, really good.
I think
that's quite West Coast.
Totally, yeah. And I think port is having such a renaissance just now.
Yeah.
That like it's not something that your granny and granddad drinks. It's
I feel the same way about sherry.
Yeah, sherry, totally. Like Portleith, obviously bottling their own sort of sherries and stuff. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that would be my shouts.
Yeah, I think there's so many.
We could definitely do several series just talking about things we've drunk that we would like to have again. That's why I like to nail people down with like one. That's I'll allow your honourable mention because I frequently get told off, because when we do things like this, it's especially at the end of the year, we do our roundup of pick your, and I always have a lineup of like 3, and it really upsets Jason that I cannot nail myself to one. I always feel like I'm letting the team down by like, well, I also really enjoyed... No, just pick your one.
Just pick one,
So, thank you very much for participating in my Crack 5. Thank you for inviting me in and chatting to me this morning. It's been a lovely canter through shaping lives, young inquiring
linguistics,
minds.
buckfast.
Yeah, my goodness.
But that's what I like about a kind of... I call it a bit of a ramble chat. If you've ever listened to Adam Buxton, that's a phrase that he uses that I love, that I've sort of stolen from him. The other thing that I have stolen from him is plugging your pluggables. How do people find out if they have been excited by our conversation? How do we come find more Glasgow Distillery stuff in person, online?
Do you know, our website is jam-packed full of information, like genuinely. Do you know,
it's very on brand for you. Lots of things. We've got our full whiskey production process on our website, our full whiskey archive. Genuinely, if there's a question that you want to get answered, go to our website. But yeah, our socials are Glasgow Distillery on like Instagram. I think it's Glasgow DC on X, as we call it now. Me personally, I'm Dramatic Libby.
I'm half _ and _ Hall. So half and half is like
half and a Hall.
Yeah, half and
like
Hall.
Love a pun.
And I know that we have quite a few Americans that, assuming that they weren't really confused by your well played accent.
Thank you.
Do you have any US visits lined up soon?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Los Angeles and Las Vegas in February. And then later on in the year, hoping to get across to Chicago again. But if
there are lots of Chicago residents that listen to this. They'll be really excited.
Excellent.
To hear that.
Good.
Sounded sarcastic. It wasn't. They know who they are.
So yeah, hopefully be across in the States soon. But then outside of that, at the Village in Nuremberg very soon. We'll be across in Belgium very soon. We'll be in Finland very soon. We are a small team, but we are absolutely everywhere.
Would you believe me if I said there is a page on our website called What's On?
Yes.
And everything on there is where we are.
I think that's where you guys look to work out where you are next. I think
pretty much. Yeah.
Libby keeps us right. Yeah.
Which is amazing because she's also never at home.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed that she's even here to have this conversation.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was lovely. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll catch you on the road. And I'll definitely see you at the Village in Nuremberg soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, I definitely had a ton of fun talking to those two, and I hope that comes across, even if it seems like maybe we accidentally became promoters of Burger King. I've not thought about Burger King that much ever, but they're right. It is literally opposite the distillery. So some sort of future collab, 3-way collab between us, Glasgow Distillery and Burger King.
Yeah.
I don't know what the vegetarian options for Burger King look like.
Yeah.
You two might be quite hungry.
I tell you, it was the strangest way to introduce our newest sponsor, but here we are.
I feel like every podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, so I think Burger King are they're wide open. They've got plenty of opportunities there.
That is not a better help at all. I mean, better help to heart disease, and they do have a veggie burger. They've got I think they do like they do a fake chicken nugget kind of thing, and I think they do like an Impossible Burger or something like that, or a Beyond Burger, and they're expensive. They're really expensive.
I can't tell you the last time I ever had a Burger King.
Oh, really?
So
man.
I have no notes or menu tips.
Oh, that was my favorite growing up. They had a chicken sandwich. That was before I went veg as a kid. Oh, it was the best. The best.
Those two facts are unrelated. I had a birthday party at McDonald's. I'm strictly a McDonald's girl.
Oh, you didn't do the Burger King birthday where you get the crown and the whole thing?
They gave you basically the same thing at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. Like, my parents were really strict about us having takeaways, so the occasional McDonald's. And then when I was of an age where all of my classmates had McDonald's birthday parties, that was also what happened.
Okay.
So, yeah, no help at all. But I have been to loads of distilleries, so I feel like it's not really impeded me on my... Yeah, as a kid, actually, weirdly, because, and I've spoken about this before, how I got into this whole whiskey business mess is because when I was a child and we used to go on holiday to Speyside in the 90s, before we invented the internet, or certainly the internet came to Scotland, rural Scotland, my parents needed something to do with us, and it rains a lot in Scotland, so we used to go to Glenfiddich Distillery because they let children in and it was free. Not because my parents liked whiskey. It was purely on a science basis.
So, did you go on tours?
Yeah, I think I must have been maybe about 6 or 7, the first one I did.
Did you?
Because it's really interesting, right? And it's a fun thing to go see. And also, we probably didn't have quite so much health and safety. There was definitely a, don't touch things policy, but sure. I spent all of my childhood going to National Trust properties and those kinds of things. So as children, me and my brother were very used to the do not touch, don't run around policy of going to these things. So that wasn't alien. I just loved the smells and these funny machines and looking at the shiny stills and the, the washbacks and the underback. That was quite cool, being lifted up to see into the underback.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Glenfiddich used to have a kind of movie theatre at the beginning of their tour, and it was like 3 screens. So obviously your usual in front of you and then one on each side. And the tour started, you're all filed into this theatre, and there are these big headphones in front of you on the back of the seats. And there was like a little knob, you could turn it to a bunch of different languages. So you'd put the headphones on, and then they would start with an opening scene from Macbeth, and it's the witches meeting on the top of the hill, which, of course, is set very near where the distillery is. And so it was kind of animated, like very early animated, but the witches would kind of fly around you for the three sides of the theatre. And I remember being terrified. I used to hide under my dad's coat. That was like the worst bit for me. And then, so I'd be like listening to the tour in Russian while they were doing this so that I didn't have to listen to the witches as they repeat the very famous lines about where shall we three meet again.
Yeah.
And then my dad would be like, let's go. And then we go around the distillery.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
So if any cinemas want any pro tips, put in some Macbeth-based theatre at the start to freak the children. No, actually, right. You're right. I probably shouldn't suggest that's not very helpful, is it? But so it's funny talking to the guys at Glasgow because, of course, they are, I think, one of the few modern distilleries that were put together as a distillery first with really no consideration for people wanting to come and see where stuff was made. And in the last couple of years, they've worked really hard to change that. It is still a production site. It is still in a, as we discussed, not so glamorous location of Hillington. But now they have, you can book, I think once a month, they have a bunch of tours that you can book into. Yeah. And I think you finish the tour in the lovely tasting room that we recorded the interview in. So now they're sort of changing it a bit.
And it's such an interesting decision nowadays because of how popular whiskey has become, and whiskey tourism in general has become a thing that, you know, so many new distilleries that have been built, you know, the visitor center becomes, you know, one of the main points. Okay, all right, where are we putting the stills? Where are we putting the washbacks? Okay, how big is the visitor center going to be? How do we tie in the visitor center at the end, just like, you know, you would, like a Disney kind of ride, you know.
Exit through the gift shop.
Exactly.
It's an ideal way to take an extra couple of quid. The only people I know of that are deliberately bucking that trend are Johnny and Angus at Carrith, who I'm confident they'll change their minds, but are very adamant for now that it's not a visitor centre, there is no tours, it's just a working site making whiskey. I think that won't stay. I imagine it'll stay appointment only for the, you know, whiskey curious. I can't imagine they ever want to entertain a £10 tour. There's plenty of distilleries in Scotland who do that, and there's no shame in it. You know, there's loads of people who come to Scotland, like you were talking about in the extra about tourism. You know, and when they come to Scotland, they want to see a castle, they want to see a Highland cow, they want to do some sort of whiskey thing, they want to see a loch, and they want to, you know, contact their ancestors. I think it's fine. There's a place for all of that.
Yeah.
But I think there's also some distilleries who maybe want to step above that and, you know, be showing people who maybe are aware of the brand. We talked a bit about that, you know, like come and see where that liquid that you really enjoyed at the Houston Whiskey Festival, when you're in Glasgow, come see it. I'm always trying to make people not just come to Edinburgh and immediately head up to like the Highlands or, you know, go from Edinburgh, pick up a car and drive straight to Campbelltown or Islay. There's loads of stuff to be doing in Glasgow.
So much. Yep, so much.
I think you're missing out. And if Glasgow Distillery themselves are trying to encourage people to, you know, time their visits and come see them, then I'm all for it. More power of that.
Yeah, you know, obviously you live in Glasgow. You've lived there quite a long time. I've been coming to Scotland since 2011, nearly every year, a few times a year since then, and have been to most cities and most places, and there's something so special about Glasgow, and there's so much to explore, and there's so much to offer. And I really loved, you know, there's this segment in your conversation where it's just three people clearly in love with Glasgow, just saying, not fuck Edinburgh, not fuck this place, but just saying, like, really pay attention to Glasgow, because most people are in love with Edinburgh. Most people are in love with, you know, most people don't have Glasgow at the tip of their tongues, and they really should do, because, you know, like Niall said, I think the food scene there is fantastic. I think the bar scene there is super cool. Kelvin Grove Art Museum is gorgeous. I walked through it last time I was in Glasgow. Not last time, when you guys did the Glasgow's Whiskey Festival and I had COVID, I strapped on a couple of masks and just kind of, I had to do something. I had to get out of my room. And, I just think it's such a great place. And I think all three of you were spot on for championing that city. And I really, I enjoyed so much of the conversation, but that part of it, I was like, thank you for saying so many good things about Glasgow. I think more people need to be highlighting how great a city it really is.
I was surprised how kind you were, but I guess we're three non-natives who have chosen to make it our home, despite the terrible weather, which is usually my number one complaint about Glasgow. But you can't do anything about that, and you can drink whiskey indoors, so it's not terrible. I never anticipated living in Glasgow as long as I have done. I have a bit of a joke that I tell people that I moved here to go and do a second degree, and I just sort of forgot to leave. And I've been in Glasgow now for 14, 15 years? Yeah. So, which is slightly, those numbers don't number in my head. It's quite frightening. But yeah, it's got a lot of potential. And I think you should come to Edinburgh and see the shiny, very touristy. Edinburgh has a lot of beautiful things, as we all know, and a lot of nice things to eat and drink. But I think if you skip Glasgow, I think you're missing a true heart and soul of the country.
Yeah, agreed.
And then then go see what Skye looks like. Go up to Inverness, or onto the West Coast.
Yeah. So there was 2 questions that I want to end my bit on. And it's 2 of your 5 questions.
Okay.
If Jessica Rabbit Guillermo Lomas was a whiskey, what whiskey would she be?
I don't know. And when I wrote this question, I thought inevitably somebody is going to turn this back on me and make me answer it. And but the point of the questions is that you're not allowed to overthink it, so I guess I have to answer quickly. Oh, shit. Honestly, I'm not sure. I want to say that I'm something coastal, because I feel like, especially the way I'm holding this mic, that obviously nobody can see because we've not got the cameras on, but I feel like I'm on Blind Date. Where they're like, same to contestant number 2. And it's always like a really corny line, like, if you were a whiskey, what would you be? And they always answered like something mega vague, like, I'd be something coastal and a bit salty, because that's my characteristic.
Yeah, totally.
I would not get very far on that dating show, clearly. Or like, I'm sophisticated and elegant, so I'm blah, blah, blah. No, honestly, I don't know. And I'm going to refuse to answer, because the listeners to this podcast hold people responsible to their answers. They write in.
Wow, I was not expecting a refusal to answer, but you know what? I'll let it slide. Okay.
What if that taints my future questions of other people, though? If they know that I've said I'm a...
That's a good point.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, maybe you'll answer this one. Okay. Because this is less personal. If you could have one whiskey return, and that be your desert dram, what would it be?
So that's 2 questions in one, as the listeners will be shouting, or I will be shouting in the future as I'm driving and listening. So you can have a whiskey that would come back that you don't have anymore, but also your desert island dram. They don't have to be the same thing.
That okay? Yeah, but, okay. So just go with just one whiskey.
I could go with both. I have been very lucky and a spoilt princess in my whiskey drinking life, and honestly, one of the best things I've ever drunk is Black Bowmo. And I was given it blind, and I was in a noisy pub, and people were talking, and it wasn't one of these, you know, when people drink these sort of very reverential whiskies, they have this sort of moment of epiphany, you know, calm, a beautiful setting or something. It wasn't. It was in a very noisy pub on a Friday night. And I was talking to someone, and this glass appeared in front of my face, and I took it and I said, "Is that for me?" Yeah, that's for you. And I took a sip and was like, I stopped the conversation I was having with the person I was talking to. I was like, "I'm sorry, I just need to, could you just stay there?" And I turned and was like, "What was that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's Black Bowmore." And I was like, "Fuck off, no it's not." And they said, "Yeah, it is." And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I can see why people pay a lot of money for that. It's out of this world."
Wow.
It's got everything I look for as a Bowmore nerd in it. And it's got that lovely, rich, big, old, chewy, but not too much leather, smoke, like gentle smoke that's died down because it's old liquid.
Yeah.
I've also had now I've turned into a horrible humble bragger, which I only do once a year, so aren't you lucky, listeners? I've had the other ones in the collection. I've had the white and gold.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so tropically. It's like a really tropical papaya umbongo, which is a juice drink, if you have grown up with that. And I've said juice drink because I'm not sure there's an awful lot of fruit in it. That's real anyway. And it's just, ridiculous. So I think if I could have one whiskey that I don't think too hard about answering, it'd be something like that, because I think just drinking that for the rest of my days would be pretty okay.
Amazing.
What about you?
So it's interesting.
It's difficult. It's difficult to answer this correctly.
Well, that particular question, I have no difficulty whatsoever in answering. I always have that. I always have an answer to that question in the chamber. It's very easy to answer. But I will say, I've never had the Black Bowmore. I've had white, I've had gold, and this is that, total humble brag, and I don't mean it to be like, oh, I've had the white and gold, and
now that I've done that,
yeah. But yeah, absolutely privileged to be able to taste this. But yeah, I'm really jealous you've had the Black Bowmore. Lagavulin 21-year-old from the 2007 release.
That is pretty special. You're right.
It's just, you gave me a taste of the 1966 local barley Springbanks. I've had tastes of Karazawas and, insert coveted bottles here, right? Mm-hmm. But I keep on coming back to that 21-year-old Lagavulin from 2007. For me.
I also like that one of my memories of that is sitting in your house drinking that. That's a very treasured memory. Mm. So I think also my point about all of these, and when we do this in the roundup of the years, end of year podcast when we do it, there's an element of #humble brag, but this, as I have said, this is my safe space. I'm talking to people who may not have had the whiskey, but understand the intention behind it. But as always, the thing I think that really shapes my whiskey choices is the people I'm with or the setting that I'm in. Mm-hmm. This hotel in London, spoiler alert, didn't make it to Germany, absolutely does not have the vibes of having a top-class whiskey experience, if you ask me. But being in someone's house on a special occasion, or being on Isla or at a distillery and having just a really special moment with people that you care about, I think the whiskey doesn't have to be the best thing you've ever drunk. It can be a very noisy, crowded pub. And when you get the opportunity to try something that is that good, then suddenly all the not ideal setup. I mean, being passed a whiskey in front of your face when you've had a couple of pints, and we'd probably had a couple of whiskeys before, but I mean, we certainly weren't. It was early on in the evening, and then for the rest of the evening, we guarded the glass. Because it's, a busy pub, so people come around, any empties, can we take your glasses? And that was the one that we had our hands over, and we were like, no, this one stays. Yeah. And for the rest of the evening, like the absolute whiskey perverts we just kept sniffing the glass. And somebody caught us, and they were like, why are you smelling an empty glass? And we put it in their face and we said, smell this. The person that we did that to not a whiskey drinker, didn't appreciate what was happening. I was like, ugh, why does it smell like fire? So, delicious fire.
Yeah.
So I think it's usually the desert island dram is as a concept, it's one that's attached to a very specific memory and time, and that's why you would want to take it with you to a desert island.
Very good.
I mean, I think you should probably be drinking other things on a desert island that's not just whiskey. If we're, hashtag real talking about being on a desert island, you should probably be trying to look for help to get you off the island rather than laying into my case of Black Bowmores. But I'd suffer it out for a few days before I considered needing to leave.
A few days, a week, 2 weeks.
I think a week of me on my own drinking whiskey's probably about 4 days too many. But if it was like me and my friends stuck on a desert island,
right?
Sure, a month, 6 months, whatever, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will think of a better response to that question about what whiskey am I? Do you know what whiskey you are?
I do.
Are you going to share it, or are you going to make me wait until I have a... I'm tired. I've had a long day. I'm scared of stereotyping myself in something I'll regret in the morning.
I'm happy to share it.
But if you can do it, go.
I've thought about that. I thought about this after listening to your conversation with Libby and Niall. And
okay.
I think that I am a Bal Blair.
Oh.
Yeah, I think there's something bright and jovial about the spirit, and just sort of like easygoing about it.
Oh, that's good. I think I could ask, name a number. I think I could ask 50, cautious 50. Whiskey, I'm going to say probably on the whiskey geekier side, who have got a range of whiskies they could pull out in this type of scenario. Yeah. I'm fairly confident in 50. I don't think you get more than a couple of Bal Blairs, so I'm very impressed that that's where you have picked.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I like it.
I'm not the hugest, I like Bal Blair quite a lot. It's not a go-to, but when I thought about that question, I said, well, who am I as a person? And I just think of myself as I try to be happy-go-lucky. I try to be, just let things roll off my back and as much as possible. And when I think of Bal Blair, I think it's always just nice and fresh and easy. And some of the older ones have just kind of bring you comfort. And so, yeah, I think that's where I landed.
Oh, I think that's very sweet. Now I'm very glad I didn't answer, because I don't think I would have been able to come up with something as sincere as that.
Meanwhile, people who are listening are saying, no, Josh, you're locked due. You're... No,
don't be putting yourself down like that. There's no need for that. But I would be interested to hear what the listeners are.
Oh.
What would they describe themselves as?
Oh, I love this. Jess, I absolutely love this. And it's a perfect segue to be closing out the podcast. So, for our listeners, if you want to answer this question, go ahead. info@singlecastnation.com. What whiskey are you? What distillery are you? Is it bourbon? Is it Scotch whiskey? Is it...
Yeah, so I hadn't yet considered, because I've only been interviewing people with my famous 5, if you can make it famous after 3 uses. My famous 5 so far has only been in Scotland, so I hadn't considered a non-Scottish option.
Yeah, I would argue there's a lot of variability.
I like that
there.
We could have some international options here. All right, yes, please tell us.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear your thoughts and feelings about what you are.
Beauty. This is great. Jess, thanks so much for taking the time to go off to Glasgow Distillery, speaking with Libby and Niall. Thanks to both of them for taking out time in their day to talk with you. Again, it was just a wonderful conversation to listen back to. So, I will thank them again. I had so much fun listening
to their answers to the questions and just having a nice old chitty chat and getting a chance to speak to them about Glasgow. And it's funny because I've known the brand longer than they've been there, so it was really fun to hear their take and coming to the distillery. And they're both doing such great jobs being ambassadors for the distillery and also Glasgow itself. So
cool.
It was very nice.
Well, people in the US who are listening, go check store shelves because their whiskeys are now here in the US. And if you're not familiar with it, and you're in another country, check it out. I highly recommend it. Good juice.
Great juice.
There you go. Great juice. I like that. All right. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Jess.
Cheers. Literally the worst clank ever heard on this podcast.